Oh, good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. This is a wonderful day, and we were able to come together, worship, and hear so many good words and lessons from the Word of the Lord. I'd like to, along with the others, thank the elders for allowing us young men an opportunity to be able to come and speak before the congregation. I know that we're all very much anxiously looking forward to this opportunity. If you'd like to, you can go ahead and turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15. We'll be reading from there in just a moment. This might be typical of normal childhood behavior, but I know that for me, whenever I was a kid, there'd be a lot of times I might wrong one of my siblings, probably most likely Sierra, who y'all know. My younger sister Sophie's a little younger, 8 years younger than me, in fact. But sometimes we'd get in an argument, or I would wrong her in some way, or maybe it was my parents or somebody else. And of course, my parents would insist that I apologize and say that I was sorry. But sometimes it was not sincere. Many times early on in the training, my heart was not in the apology. I would say, "I'm sorry, but what really need it?" And they would say, of course, "No, you have to mean it. Be really sorry for what you've done." And so, just like children's hearts many times, my heart, when I was younger, was not sincere in an apology. My heart, our hearts, children's hearts are not in it. So too were the Pharisees' hearts not in line with God's will. Matthew chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15, verses 1 through 8. Then some Pharisees and scribes came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat." And he answered them and said, "Why do you yourselves transgress the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? For God said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and he who speaks evil of father and mother is to be put to death. But you say, 'Whoever says to his father and mother, what I have that would help you has been given to God,' he is not to honor his father or his mother. And by this you invalidate the word of God for the sake of your traditions. You hypocrites, rightly did Isaiah prophesy you. The people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me." The Pharisees had a wrong focus. Their focus was in an incorrect place. Their focus was in their traditions. Now the Pharisees are a sect of the Jewish religion that is new to the scene when we get to the New Testament. They're not really a part of the Old Testament. They developed during the period of silence between the two testaments. And one of the issues that they had was that they had constructed an enormous amount of extra rules and regulations surrounding the law. And in this specific instance, they were getting onto Jesus and his apostles and disciples for not washing their hands before they ate. Now, this was not required by the law, but this was merely a tradition of the scribes and the Pharisees. And they believed cleanliness was necessary to participate in in Jewish life, and to worship of God's people. They built a hedge, and this is not the only case that they've done this. They did this in many different aspects. That they had taken and built a hedge around the law so far that it was now not the law, and it was the traditions of men. But they did this so that they might stay as far away from breaking the law as possible. Now, if you don't want to cross a line, say we draw a line here in the floor, it'd be good if we could stay as far away from it as possible. That might be reasonable. No. Jesus points out to them that they broke the law for the sake of their traditions. Now, there are two laws. two laws in question here. There's the law of Moses and the tradition of the Pharisees. And when there are two competing points of view, one will be preferred over the other. And in this, the Pharisees were so eager to keep every little piece of their own law and tradition that they lost sight of what God really desired from their hearts. The Pharisees were giving outward lip service to God, but their hearts were so distant from Him. And Jesus even compared them to their forefathers, even saying that Isaiah, who was, in Isaiah's context, was talking about the people of Israel at that time. Jesus said that Isaiah was prophesying about them. And now, of course, the Pharisees were all the high and mighties. They were the ones who kept the law. They were the holy ones. They were the people of God. They were the ones who made Israel and the Jewish people a holy priesthood. They wanted to look so good and be, and many times, pompous and bombastic in front of the people. With their loud prayers, their phylacteries, their depressing fasts, and their trumpeted tithings, which Jesus all points out, they miss the entire point of following God. They miss following God and His will, and only His will entirely, because of their traditions. And their traditions led their hearts to be far from God. Now Jesus has another priority instead of the traditions of men. Jesus' priority is the Word. Jesus proves in this passage that they do break the law for the sake of their traditions. And interestingly enough, out of the possible scores or hundreds of different examples Jesus could have used, Jesus uses an example of the family. The Pharisees were evidently forsaking the care of their elderly parents, again for their own traditions and looking good in front of the people. They would give large amounts of money to the temple or to other charitable good causes that they could gain recognition from. But when their elderly parents, who were potentially old and infirmed, who needed their aid, and according to the law of Moses in the Ten Commandments, it requires that children honor their father and their mother. Yet because the Pharisees were so bound up in their traditions, they forsook the care of their elderly parents. And if they weren't willing to care for their parents, why would they give any regard to God as their Father? God didn't desire the Pharisees' rules, their hyper-holiness, their lip service or bombacity. He wanted their hearts. He wanted the people's hearts. He always wanted the people's hearts. From the earliest times, from the earliest of the promises that were made to Abraham, through the patriarchs, God desired the people's hearts. When the nation of Israel was going through the period of the judges, and there was the cycle of coming back, falling away, going into captivity, and they would cry out, and their hearts would go out to God. God would hear them and say, the people want a relationship with me again. Their hearts are coming back to me. They want to be close to me. I will invite them back in to my care and protection. And so the Lord, through His grace, would deliver Israel. And we see that time and time again throughout the history. We see men such as David and Solomon in his earlier life have such a close relationship with God, and their hearts were close to God. Now, the heart of the issue, indeed, is the heart. God desires our hearts to follow His commandments, to do His will, and not merely do the work for the show of others, or to follow the opinions of men, but our hearts must be close. Nay, they must be knit to the Father's. There's an example in the Old Testament of a story which we all know very well. 1 Samuel chapter 18. 1 Samuel 18, if you'd like to follow along in there. Pardon me. Now, the context of this is David's initial rise. He's been anointed king. He's slain the giant Goliath. And he's entering into the service of the king Saul. Now Saul's son, Jonathan, sees David and what a mighty young man he is at this time. He sees the great potential. In verse 1 of chapter 18 it said, "Now it came about that when he had finished speaking to Saul," that is David, "that the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. And Jonathan loved him as himself." Jonathan recognized in David the same things that Jonathan had inside of himself. And a few chapters before this, we see Jonathan's instance, where he goes and he and his armor bearer go up and take on an entire Philistine garrison. And so David and Jonathan become the best of friends, because they see themselves in each other. They see the priorities of the Lord and defending His word and His people. And they see that in each other. Their hearts became as one, united for the purpose of serving the Lord. Now, we've talked about the heart quite a bit already. But what is the heart? The heart is comprised of these three separate pieces of our being: the mind, the will, and our emotions. God, does He have our mind? Does God have our mind? And does His will dictate our thoughts and mindset? Our will. Is our will infused in God's will? Would we do what He wants us to do? And our emotions. Are our emotions controlled by the Father? Just as Sean spoke on in anger. Is our anger, is our love directed towards and at what God would have us be directed at? Is our love pure? Is it the love of God? Is our anger, is it righteous and directed towards sin? These are all questions we must ask ourselves. Now, because God has sway over our thoughts, does not mean that He, over our spirit and our mind and our will, does not mean that it's not mind control. It's not God saying, all right, I'm going to move you like a piece on a chessboard, and there's nothing you can do about it. No. It's not like that at all. But we must be entirely consumed by the Lord and His will, and have His word on our minds. Our wills and our emotions must reflect His own. We must ask ourselves, what does God want? How does He want me to act now, in the future, and in specific circumstances? We must make a plan to act in the future as God would have us act. How would God have us think? What are we spending a good majority of our mental power on? I know for me, the times when my mind starts to wander into things that it should not is during the downtime. During the times when I'm relaxing and I'm not focusing on school or the next history paper to write, or in any of the other activities that I participate in. It's when the things of the world start to come in. Now, not everything in the world is inherently bad. It's like in Philippians 4, verse 8, I think. Philippians 4, verse 8 summarizes, dwell on what is good. Dwell on what is right. Dwell on things above. We must have our mindset in heaven. and not on things on earth, where the moth and rust will destroy. God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? These are the questions we must ask ourselves, rather than dwelling on the opinions of men, which may warp what God really does say. Just as the Pharisees were so focused on their traditions, there are things of this world that distracts us. Things that men may say. Things that they may say about this, about the word itself, that detract from God's message. And whenever we choose God's way, our hearts are in line with His. We want His mind in our mind. And a sincere will for the Father is rooted in Jesus' words in Matthew 22, verse 37. You shall love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. When we love God with all our being, our hearts become melded with His, because our priorities are the same. And as much as humans can be, we mere mortals in these fleshly bodies, as much as we can be, our will must become His will. His thoughts become our thoughts. His desires, our desires, and His plans, our plans. And there are a lot of songs which we sing, which reflect some of these ideas and thoughts. But two of them in particular, I believe, summarize, have a way of stating our relationship with the Lord and our desire for our will to become His and becoming close to Him and our hearts being close to His. Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will, while I am waiting, yielded, and still. Mold me, make me, as you have me be. Take me, use me, that the lost may see. Guard me, guide me through this pilgrim land. Make me as clay in the potter's hand. We must ask God to use us as His own. And we must surrender. We must surrender our will to His. Use me. Make me a tool of the kingdom. Make us tools of the kingdom. The Pharisees' hearts were far from the Lord's. They believed that their traditions and safety nets around the law made them holier and more righteous. But in reality, their safety nets and their traditions and their own laws of men had brought them only farther away from where God wanted them to be. God desired their hearts and their obedience too. Not only to His law, He wanted their obedience to the law and not to the traditions of men. And so Jesus desires for us to be the same today. For our hearts to be close to His.